I call this meeting of the Davenport Community School District Board of Directors to order. And I apologize to everybody out there for the board being a little late in starting, and I appreciate your patience in putting up with that. Let's start with our board priorities, and I'd ask Director Hayes to read those for us.
I'll be happy to do so. The Davenport School Board establishes the following priorities to ensure the academic success of all students: provide leadership and direction to improve the overall learning environment to our classrooms, schools, and district, including the health, safety, security, and happiness of students and staff, and to direct and support actions, programs, and activities which reduce the impact of poverty on our students, their families, and our community.
Thank you very much. And Director Beck, would you please read our mission and vision statements?
Yes. Mission statement: enhance each student's abilities by providing a quality education enriched by our diverse community. And the vision statement: education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Thank you very much. We'll move on to a showcase. Superintendent Tate.
Thank you to Knight at Walcott Elementary, and Principal Lawler is here. Thank you, Mike.
You bet. And we hope we get this to work. I'm Mike Lawler. I'm the principal at Walcott Elementary and Walcott Intermediate. I usually like to bring students and staff to this, but what I found was this time of year we were a little crunched for time. So what I want to share with you is something I think is very important for us, and it mirrors some of your beginnings with the mission vision statements. These are priorities to us, and one of the most interesting things to us in our building is that to accomplish these requires relationships and opportunities for students to become, and we love the part on productive citizens and lifelong learners in our vision statement. One of the critical measures of that is really the quotation that's there, and that is, what are you doing for others? And in the building, we ask repeatedly of children and staff and those who participate as stakeholders, what can we do that helps others in our building? Since we're from Walcott and people like to think that we're somewhat sort of rural, we are not. We represent 5 distinct areas of our school district, including Davenport, Buffalo, Bluegrass, Walcott, and the rural areas of the county. But having said that, this is one of the best ways to look at this from the very beginning in kindergarten, the little red hen story, which we're all familiar with. And the little red hen repeatedly asked, "Who will help me?" And repeatedly got the answer, "Not I, I'm busy, I have this to do." And it changes your whole context of community, how you feel invested and empowered in the very locations that you work or live. If no one will help you, it goes exactly the opposite if they do. So this is the question that we ask ourselves: who will help me? This comes to play in all that we do relative to relationships and behavior at Walcott, and I believe throughout the entire district, knowing that we have very much aligned approaches to instruction and academics and also in behavioral learning. So who will help me? These are just some things that we think about. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. The only joy in this hard life is serving others. Those are all great quotes, but at school we think, gee, we have to do something to allow people to really make that real life. Let the rubber meet the road. Let students get real life opportunities to do this. So in our elementary, and I'm going to share with you mainly elementary pictures, since there aren't kids here, but I'm going to share with you an idea, and then I'll also share with you what we did in the intermediate that coincides with this. We have a viewpoint in our building. We are all Walcott, and if you look closely at wall, it has the word all in there. We kind of cheated on that to get it in there. And the purpose is we want to be as inclusive and as united as we can. This is the who group. Who will help me? We took the question and turned it into a statement. Who will help me? And so who, which stands for Walcott Helping Others, the who group here does these kinds of things this year alone. They did fundraising for a cancer patient. These are student-generated ideas. We do not have adults who just sign kids up to do the work. These are things that they identify. They are things they wish to pursue, and then our sponsors and staff assist them in doing so. Now, they do have to get some approval from adults before they can go running with something, but they have done fundraising for our playground. They do a lot of morale building with signage. It's really sweet to see. A lot of people would love to have just the beautiful, perfect signs and graphic arts, and we have those at school. You can come visit and see those on the walls, and those are marvelous things to have. But the thing that captures the attention of students, and really I think the adults, is to see products that are made by them. So when they raised money for a cancer patient and their family, they designed how they would do it. We allowed them the leadership. We counseled them. We gave them advice. They learned about fundraising, requirements for that, how that has to be accounted. They also learned that it's just a lot of hard work, which is really important, that in service you understand you're giving of yourself. It costs you something. And so we try to make it for the students an experience that is really real. They really get to do this. They have to suffer through it. They have to see the things that don't work. They feel backlash sometimes. Some kids say, why are you doing that? But they persevere through that. Again, we encourage and support it. So you'll see those variety of things up there. They're far-ranged. The most recent one, they got on a letter writing campaign to encourage a staff member who lost a family member. This is our sponsor. She works with other teachers in the building and other staff people in the building to do this. She sponsors the WHO group, and we allow only fifth grade to be the leaders in that, but any fifth grader may participate in the projects, and kids will slide in and out of that because certain projects capture their attention. Others, they may have other activities that cause them to really kind of diversify and choose based on their interests and also their activities and responsibilities. Another good way to find out if service is real is, can I continue in it despite my own interests? This is one they came up with entirely on their own, a wristband campaign. I don't know what they did to their noses, but a wristband campaign, and it focused around a person who was, and family who was struggling. And they have maintained that. Believe it or not, that thing developed into a t-shirt campaign, and I would tell you that every Tuesday that's represented. You come to our building, you'll see these kids had an impact that is carried throughout the year. This is the fundraiser for candy canes. They had to find the place to purchase this. We're so lucky at Walcott they put a Dollar General in. And so they were able to get those at a reasonable price. They packaged, they counted, they delivered. All the logistics are theirs. Actually, it was the most seamless one we've had. I think the kids managed just a little bit better than we do sometimes. But this was to purchase one of those Gaga pits for the school playground. And it's a remarkable response because it's the most popular piece of it right now. This is the writing of support cards to people, or they'll make posters or flyers, slap them on. And again, these are things they come up with. We're not out there saying, oh, we need to do this for somebody. Same thing, the social skills, etc. Real life experiences. I do think it's important because in PBIS and in other areas that we're working on, we look at opportunities for kids, teamwork, social skills, empathy, kindness, general life skills. We talk about it, we teach it. We usually get it after the fact, we reteach it. These kids are wanting to try it on their own, and they're extending it. I'll tell you what, they invest, they own, and their approach to school is totally different. We're very fortunate. They work collaboratively on these activities, which is another important thing. I have to laugh at Hank. He's pretty happy there. So those are the elements. This is one where they were collecting items on the playground that shouldn't be there, and then they take care of our whole playground cleanup. They work with our intermediate on that. They cover it all. It's just amazing. It is a hallmark of the community, though, that they also are involved. We have lots of community groups that like to work with the school, and I think it perpetuates it for them. And that's where we like it being in not just elementary, but in the intermediate. This is Mr. Phillips. I'm going fairly quickly here for you. Mr. Phillips happens to be a staff member also. He's our security person. He's actually the heart of the school right now. And one of the things he asked me about was, I know we have student council in the intermediate, but what happens to the kids who want to help their school, but they don't get elected? What do you do with those kids? We've encouraged everybody to sign up for it, get involved, do things. And we encourage our kids, even if they are the rascals or the kids we might see with frequency for other reasons. And so here are these kids now. The system, in one sense, kind of said, gee, that didn't work out for me. He said, could we start a group and offer to them and anyone else, but to them in particular, they say they want to do leadership. They say they want to serve. Can we give them the opportunity? I said, absolutely. What do you want to do? So he came up with actually, he didn't come up with the name. We had a different name for the group. He got this group together. They voluntarily, about 40 kids, I think. It ranges between 25 plus. He got those kids together, and they decided they would name it Panther Service Partners. Those are really nice things. One, they wanted to choose the word service. They obviously had to choose Panther because they do love their school mascot. But partners is the critical thing, because many times children do not see themselves as partners in these ventures because adults drive it, and therefore your relationship is with an adult. They see it more as it's a relationship among them. And so they wanted to serve the needs of others, and they may. These are the projects they've been doing this year then. Snow shoveling. You're supposed to say, I thought operations did that. And I said, they do. They do an outstanding job. But they don't shovel our Gaga pit. They don't take the leaves out of the Gaga pit. They don't have time for that, nor would we want them to. So today, you can go to the Gaga pit. Even if some of it melted, they make sure that thing is maintained. They also check for safety. Oh, yes, they discovered that it wasn't put together right and told the people that, hey, this should be reversed, and got that done. They were responsible for a holiday tree in the cafeteria, 14 foot high. They worked with the whole building. You could put anything on it you wanted to. They assisted in preparations for Dr. Seuss Week. They did all the stage crew voluntarily for Panther Palooza, which is our talent show, K-8 talent show. They have an easel in the main hallway that all the students pass, and they select positive quotes to encourage people, and that's their responsibility to come up with that. They worked in the book fair. They're making the PBIS good behavior and not so good behavior videos for us. They go on our Chromebooks when they have advisory time period. They collect for the food pantry, and they actually help in the energy audits. Who can help? We can. We are all part of, and then our little play on the name Walcott. And then here's why we do it, and this is kind of Mr. Phillips' approach to everything. And I can't read it very well because it's dark there, so I'm going to look this way. This is a story about 4 people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. And the point being that we're wanting our kids to say, hey, I'll be the somebody who does something. And that's what we do at Walcott. Any questions? Any?
Any questions or comments from the board? Director Beck.
I just want to say that is a model of service learning that I have not seen yet. A lot of times service learning comes in these, big projects, and I really like that you guys have sort of integrated the concept of doing for others into pretty much everyday life, and that it doesn't have to be a big project. You can help people in tiny little ways every day. So kudos to you guys, and keep it up.
Anybody else? No? Okay, well, that was a great presentation or showcase, Mr. Lawler, and yeah, just amazing. So thank you very much for your leadership and everything that's going on there at Walcott.
Thank you. Have a good day.
We can give them a hand, guys. All right. We have a couple of hearings we have to do. First, I will now conduct a public hearing on the 2017-18 budget amendment. A copy of the amendments to the current 2017-18 budget amendment was published in the Quad City Times on March 30th, 2018. Any resident or taxpayer may present objections to or arguments in favor of any part of the proposed amendments. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please step forward to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Is there anybody here for this? All right. Seeing and hearing, oh, there we go. So give us your name and address and tell us what your thoughts are.
Hi, Karen Gordon, 2415 North Fairmount Street, Davenport, Iowa. I actually had searched for the agenda or the proposed budget amendment on the Quad City Times site, and I could not find it anywhere, and I do not get a paper copy. Do you guys have somewhere here that we can see that?
What? Hang on just a minute, Karen. She's asking.
Whatever is going to be discussed, yeah, because I looked at, I
11.01.
couldn't find it on the Quad City Times website, which made me think that maybe other people weren't able to either. So I thought if it was something we could all see, that would be helpful. Right, and I searched the date, and I searched on the Times website, and I couldn't find it. Perfect, thank you.
Karen, did you have anything else to say about the amendment? Just that you weren't able to view it, and so there's the budget amendment. Can you read it okay out there? Can we make it bigger at all? Okay. All right. Does anybody else wish to speak on this issue?
I just have a couple questions. My name's Katerina Bolton, at 1920 Walling Court in Davenport, Iowa.
That was Katerina?
Katerina Bolton.
Okay, thank you.
1920 Walling Court. I just have questions as far as, obviously it's going up from into an increase. Can you explain what some of those increases are? Like what are they, why are they being increased specifically? I see instruction is the only one that's the same, but the rest of them are going up. What are the total, like the total other expenditures, non-instructional support programs? Can you tell us what those are?
I'm not sure that we're allowed to in a public hearing. The public hearing is here for you to express your thoughts and concerns. It's not really something that we can debate or that trying to give the information at this point. We can take your questions and trying to think how we would even convey them to you. Are you concerned? Why don't you express it more in a concern, a positive statement rather than a question?
So, I mean, it was a question. I don't know how else to,
Well, tell us what your concern is.
just why is it going up? Like, what is different from before to now? Why is it going up? Just making sure that, as we all know while we're here, that things are being cut and schools are closed, what have you. But for these things that are changing or increasing, that they're actually there to support, things that they're actually going for something to help with our kids. Not that it's, I don't want to say misused or what have you, but just what those breakdowns are. If I can't get that here, where can I get that from?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like I say, it's intended to be for you to express something to us, and I'm not sure, Superintendent Tate, whether that's a complex question. I don't know whether there's a way to even express it in a sentence or two, or if we can get the information out later in some way.
Chief Financial Officer, any thoughts about how best to answer this?
Perhaps when it comes up as an agenda item, I can do some research in the meantime and address it at that time during the discussion.
Yeah, and I appreciate your thoughtfulness on that, Marcia. And Katerina, there will be a vote later on this evening. Now,
Okay.
during that vote, you will not have a chance to speak. But as Marcia said, she'll try to do some research between now and that point in time and try to give us a little bit more information.
So it will be discussed then before the vote, so we'll just have more information then?
There will be an opportunity for discussion by the board.
Okay.
And whether they discuss or not, who knows?
Right.
So,
Okay.
all right, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Katerina. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak on this item? Okay, seeing and hearing none, I now declare this public hearing closed. And thank you, Karen and Katerina, for coming to speak on this issue. And as I noted a couple of minutes ago, this will be coming to the board in a little while for a vote. We're now going to conduct a public hearing on the 2018-19 proposed budget. A copy of the detailed 2018-19 proposed budget was published in the Quad City Times on March 30th, 2018. Any resident or taxpayer may present objections to or arguments in favor of any part of this proposed budget. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing and hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. And a vote on this item will take place later in this meeting. We have a special recognition, and Superintendent Tate, you've got somebody that will be making that recognition.
Yes, tonight Mr. Snaden's going to take care of that, so I'll turn it over to him.
Good evening. I have the privilege of bringing forward to you the latest group of teachers from the Davenport Community Schools who have received the National Board Certification. I think it'd be nice if we ask them to come up here now as we tell a little bit about what this certification involves. You can come right down here if you want to. I think it's important that as members of the community and certainly as members of the board that you have a little bit of background knowledge about what is a national board certification. Through some research with the help of their labor association, we put together some of the following points we think would be important to know. It's a voluntary assessment. It's a program designed to develop, retain, and recognize accomplished teachers. It's a rigorous, peer-reviewed process that ensures that these board-certified teachers have the proven skills they need to advance student achievement. They recognize their accomplishments in teaching through a rigorous professional certification process comparable to those that you might see in other premier professions such as medicine, engineering, or law. These people have to work very hard to get this certification recognition. They submit 3 portfolio entries in which they must analyze their teaching context, the needs of the student. They have to submit videos. They have to provide work samples. And all of this then is analyzed and sent back and given to them as in a form of feedback. They also have to complete an assessment that demonstrates their content knowledge in the areas in which they receive this certification. There are more than 100,000 nationally board certified teachers in the United States, and that represents only about 3% of the teaching force. There are about 730 teachers in the state of Iowa, and I'm proud to say that Davenport Community Schools now have 23 of those teachers in our district. This evening, we'd like to recognize these professionals as members of a board-certified group. We know that has proven research that shows us that the students they teach outperform non-certified teachers on achievement testing, and they have a positive effect and an even greater effect on our minority population. So on behalf of all of us at the Davenport Schools, we want to say congratulations. Maybe you guys want to come face the board this way. Mr. Johansson, as board president, do you want to help me with these presentations? All right. We'll acknowledge each one of these recipients and tell you what areas they're certified or receiving this award in. Ashley Noel Sullivan. Ashley is receiving her certification an exceptional needs specialist, early childhood through young adolescence, and mild and moderate disabilities, ages 5 through 21. Congratulations. Amanda Creselius. You guys are in order. Exceptional needs specialist, early childhood through young adult, mild to moderate disabilities. Congratulations. Now, this guy's always out of line. That's William Reese Saunders. Reese is receiving his in the area of literacy, reading, language arts, ages 3 through 12, early and middle childhood. Congratulations, Reese. Joni Nelson. Joni is in science, ages 14 through 18, adolescence and young adulthood biology. Congratulations. And Teresa Tappa. Teresa's literacy, reading, language arts, early and middle childhood. Congratulations. One of the other things that we're able to do for you people is to know that there's a plaque that hangs in this boardroom that recognizes the gold standard in teaching, and you join this group of 23 other teachers from Davenport School. So congratulations. It's yours also, that, buddy.
Yep, thank you very much.
And I don't know if you have any questions for these recipients. Yeah.
Linda, were you going to say something? All right. Okay, well, thank you all. Thank you,
Proud of you. Congratulations, guys.
every one of you, and congratulations. Superintendent Tate, we'll move on to student board reports.
Thank you. I think tonight we'll start with West High School and probably end with West High School. Thank you for coming.
Oh, we're always happy to be here. So to begin the student board report, West boys soccer team is 3-0. Props to their hard work and strong performances thus far.
Our drama department is working hard to prepare Oklahoma this year, and the cast has been working many nights after school, sometimes as late as 10 p.m., and is moving along very well with both the singing and the choreography. West will perform on May 4th, 5th, and 6th in the Liddy Auditorium, and we hope that you are all able to come and support our shows.
The Davenport West 2018 Hall of Honor inductees will be honored at the spring banquet on Saturday, April 28th in the West High Cafeteria from 5:45 to 8 p.m. Byron E. Peterson is a member of the class of 1976. John Maxwell is a member of the class of 1980. And Beth Godwin Calabata is a member of the class of 1985.
And interestingly enough, Writing Atlas, a rock/blues music group that sophomore Sam Petrie is a member of, he's the drummer, they've submitted a song to Rock 97X for the album that they are putting together, and voting concludes on April 2nd for the best album in the QC area, so good luck to them.
And West will be hosting State Solo and Ensemble Contest this Saturday. Multiple schools from across the district and state, including many great musicians from West, will be performing solo and group selections for ratings and possible awards. Good luck to all performers, including Shane.
And then after a pretty big string of weather cancellations for almost all sporting events, despite the fact that it's April and it's still snowing outside, our varsity girls golf team will be competing in their first meet of the season on Thursday in North Scott. So I would like to wish good luck to them and to Maddie for golfing. So.
And that concludes the Student Board Report.
Thank you, West High School.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to board reports. Are there any? Director Beck.
I was able to see the central performance of High School Musical on Saturday, which was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. My son really enjoyed it. It was really well done, and I am really looking forward to going to see Oklahoma at West.
Thank you. Director Hayes.
I was able to go out to North Scott Junior High School to listen to one of the Little Rock Nine give his story, which was very interesting. Too bad more students couldn't hear that, but it was an outstanding performance, what he did, in some of the pictures that he showed. And also, the board would like to offer our condolence to the Magruder family in the loss of Mr. Magruder, a phys ed teacher at Garfield, and the loss of his wife.
Thank you. Any other board reports? Director Potts.
I just wanted to, on behalf of the board, offer condolences to Jenny Klingman and her family on her passing. Jenny was the secretary at Sudlow Junior High for 20 years, and she was the first person that I met and spoke to me when I showed up there in August of '74 for my interview. And I got hired anyway.
Anybody else? All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to communications. Director DeSalvo, would you please read those for us?
I'd be happy to. April 10th from 5 to 8, the 11th annual Taste of Pro Start will be held at the Mississippi Room in the Davenport River Center. There's a link on our website. This is an amazing experience. Unfortunately, I have to be out of town for work, but I would recommend everybody attend if you're able to, because these students do amazing things and the food is spectacular. Oh, sorry. I was hungry, can you tell? April 17th at 5:30 will be the LCAC, the Local School Improvement Advisory Committee meeting, held here in the ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. April 19th from 4:30 to 6:30, the 10 and 20 year employee recognition celebration at the River Music Experience at 129 Main Street in Davenport. April 23rd at 6 p.m. there will be a regular board meeting here in the ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. April 29th is the retirement dinner from 6 to 7. There's social hour, and at 7 p.m. there's dinner held at the Radisson in Davenport. April 26th from 6:30 to 8:30, the student showcase, Central High School Performing Arts Center. May 2nd at 4 p.m., the policy committee meeting in the ASC executive boardroom. May 7th at 5:30, the committee of the whole meeting in the ASC Jim Hester boardroom. May 14th at 6 p.m., regular board meeting in the ASC Jim Hester boardroom. May 30th, 7 p.m., Mid-City graduation in the Central High School Performing Arts Center.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is open forum. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at a board meeting regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak should fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The board will not act on any issue presented during open forum if it was not published as an agenda item. The Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits action on any issue that is not on the agenda. The president will set the amount of time allowed for individuals to speak during open forum. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community during open forum. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. We have, I don't know, about 6, maybe 7 open forum requests, and I've only glanced at them, but the board is really interested in your comments, and these are important, whatever you're going to talk about. And so tonight we'll have 3 minutes allowed for each person to come up and give us your comments, but that doesn't mean you have to use all 3 minutes. So we're going to start, and I'm just going to read them off in this order, but we'll call you up. Katarina Bolton, Tyler Weger, Linda Smithson, Kim Falcon, Brian Sheridan, and Megan Long. So in that order, if you'd come up to the microphone, give us your name and address. Oh, we've got one more, which is Judy Jackson. So we'll start. Katarina?
Katarina Bolton, 1920 Walling Court, Davenport, Iowa. I just wanted to come up here and voice my concern about the school closing and the change of the schedule, bell schedule. I would like to say that I would urge the board or the district to find other ways to save money and save money. It looks like specifically the that a consultant was hired to find ways specifically in transportation, cutting costs by changing bell schedule time. So I'm urging that you find other ways to cut cost so that the school times do not change. I see in 2014-15 that was overturned by a petition by parents, because at that time it looks like it was going to happen due to a study on academics. But as you research as a parent, you look at some of these times as you're starting later, and especially as a parent of a child with disabilities, regardless of where they're located, if you're starting them later in the day, it's going to be detrimental to their education and getting them on track. Even that 20 minutes later is going to cause chaos for our entire family. Not just for myself, but for other parents that have to figure in extra costs for daycare now, transportation. It's just not conveying that specific area, and closing down a school is not conveying a good image with the residents in Davenport. So again, I'm urging that you guys find different ways to find or cut funding somewhere else other than closing the school and changing the bell schedule. I also had emailed Dr. Tate and whomever a few months ago, and so I was told then that I had to have a request in writing. So I wanted to give this to you, each of you, so you can see what my concerns are for a few other things relating to special education. So I'm going to go ahead and hand that out. And then I will email another copy to everyone, because I noticed that I didn't have my phone number and email on here. So I'm going to go ahead and hand that out now if I can.
You can do that, and then I'll check with the secretary afterwards, because if you have that information, there's actually there may be other opportunities for more of this type of discussion. But go ahead and hand that out.
And that's what
Okay.
I'm hoping, because I want
Okay.
it to be put on an agenda so it can be discussed.
All right. Katerina, did you?
I don't.
Okay, we'll make some later.
Okay.
To try to get them to us too, board members.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's no problem. Next is Tyler Wager and
You got it right.
Really?
Yes,
Okay,
you did.
what's your name and address?
My name's Tyler Weger. I live at 4842 Jersey Ridge Road, Davenport, Iowa. And I'm a para at SMART. I'm a Title I para. And Director Hayes, you said it really well last week when you said that there were a lot of feelings surrounding Vision 2020. And you're right. We're angry, we're frustrated, we're worried, we're scared for us and for our students. But the message that we're trying to convey and the message that we're encouraging in our students is a feeling of hope. Because we as SMART intermediate staff members have been coming to the board meetings ever since we found out that closing our school was a possibility. And we've been really lifted up by the recent change in conversation that a specific school has not been decided on. That said, we still have a lot of questions regarding this plan, regarding the closing of a school and all of the other aspects of the plan. So I noticed that the timeline is on the agenda for tonight's board meeting, and I noticed that it has been changed. When it was up last week, it did mention Smart and Monroe, and I noticed that's been changed to just a school. I'm wondering if the Vision 2020 PowerPoint will also be changed, because right now slides 16 and 17 still specifically mention Monroe and Smart. So I'm wondering, when you guys vote, do you vote as written or as discussed and presented about?
So it's really not appropriate for us to answer that at this point.
Okay, and that's fine.
Yeah, but I will say that the superintendent is trying to continue to modify the Vision 2020 as we move forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving forward, I have a lot of questions. I sent you guys all of this in an email, so don't try and take notes. Before you vote tonight on the timeline to close a school, if you choose to approve the timeline, does that mean that you've decided on that as a course of action, and will you be as open to other proposals to save money that don't involve the closure of a school? And if a school hasn't been mentioned, how will the timeline work? Because data has to be presented to the closing and receiving schools in the fall. So what is the timeline for deciding which schools are going to be closed, and how long will they have to know if they need to search for other jobs and if families need to enroll in other schools and figure out transportation? And then regarding the change from K through 5 to K through 6, we're worried that our 6th graders are going to lose out on opportunities like exploratory classes, like STEM classes, gateway to technology, foreign language, band and orchestra every day, social studies and science taught every day by content experts, not by someone who also has to worry about reading and math and science and social studies and everything else. And then finally, what impact would having pure feeder schools have on opportunities available to students, because we don't have AVID programs in every building, or BD programs, Wise Guys programs. There's not JROTC in every high school, or college credit programs. So we're worried that if your high school choice is based on your intermediate choice, and your intermediate choice is based on your elementary choice, which is based on your neighborhood, how are students going to gain opportunities like this? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tyler. Next is Linda Smithson.
Linda Smithson, 1550 Tanglefoot Lane, Bettendorf, Iowa. I'm a teacher at Smart Intermediate School, and I have some questions about Vision 2020 and how it will affect all of the Davenport schools. There are a lot of questions here. One of the things that Vision 2020 will do is restructure the district. The presentation specifically says that elementary schools will be either pre-K through 6 or K through 6 buildings. And there's a lot of apprehension and a lot of questions about how this restructuring would work, both for students and for staff. And so I'd like to present those questions to you. I realize we won't have answers directly from you today, but there are questions that we have. Currently, the sixth graders are in the intermediate schools, and this gives them access daily to curriculum that includes science, social studies, band, and orchestra. And they're able to explore, they have an exploratory wheel that includes Gateway to Technology, foreign language, family and consumer science, which includes cooking, sewing, and career exploration, and general music. In addition to that, they have health, PE, and art. So how would moving sixth graders to elementary school change the opportunities that they have, and how, because all of that would not fit into an elementary schedule? Currently in elementary schools, students have an average of about 2.5 hours of literacy each day and about an hour and a half of math. Right now in elementary schools, most of them have science and social studies for 2 quarters each, usually for about a half an hour. Specials are PE, art, and music, probably at most 3 times a week. Generally, again, for no more than half an hour each. In elementary, band and orchestra, students get a weekly lesson only. They don't meet as a whole group class each day, and there is not an exploratory wheel at all. So if you look at these schedules, it seems that sixth graders would be losing important opportunities if they move to the elementary schools. So how would this also impact intermediate and high school programs? How would they be impacted? What about foreign language opportunities for our sixth graders to have exploration in sixth grade and then be able to choose a full year of a language in seventh and eighth? In some intermediate school, students are able to take Spanish for several years. What would happen under Vision 2020? Vision 2020 clearly states that having pure feeder schools would benefit the sports programs, but what about the other programs? Without exploratory opportunities, students could lose the opportunity to experience technology, music, and foreign language. And then what would the impact on intermediate schools be? Having all intermediates be 7th and 8th grades only means that there's a significant number of teachers who would have to be moved. Has thought been given to the enormous task of reassigning those teachers? How would the 6th grade teachers be chosen and reassigned? Teaching intermediate school, specializing in a content area such as math or reading, is completely different than teaching a self-contained elementary school classroom where you teach all content areas. So would those intermediate teachers be asked to interview against elementary teachers for open positions? How many teachers would be moved from the intermediate to elementary? When and how would all of that happen? Would there be training given to those teachers who will suddenly be teaching 6th grade and all subjects in an elementary school? And how would that impact quality instruction in all of our elementary schools? What about the CAA? Currently, CAA begins in 6th grade, so would that still be the case? And then would those students be intermediate students or elementary? There's even more questions circulating, and I urge you as a board to be clear in asking for answers in a timely manner. The restructuring of the district to K-6 and then 7-8 and high school is not a small task. Parents, students, and employees in the district deserve to know exactly what is going to happen, when and how these changes will be accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Next is Kim Tolkien.
Hi, I'm Kim Tolkien. I live at 301 Dolan Drive in Bluegrass. And I'm here to ask you to consider my appeal for my daughter Abigail to be able to open enroll out of the Davenport schools and into the Iowa Connections Academy, which is an online public school. Abby would be a freshman next year at West, and she suffers from severe anxiety and depression. She's on some medication and under the care of a psychologist. But I'm concerned about the high school environment and how that's going to affect her. And so for that reason, I feel like attending the online public school would be best for her mental health. So she's in 8th grade now. We have a son who's currently a sophomore at West. We've been happy with the Davenport school system. We don't have any intention of trying to take him out of West High School. It's just that for Abby and her specific issues, we'd like to be able to move her to the online public school. We just think she'd be the most successful in this kind of environment, at least to start her freshman year. I feel like tonight's a difficult night to ask you to do something that costs the board money, because obviously or the school system money, because there's obviously budget issues, but I would like you to consider our appeal. since we didn't get picked in the lottery and that's the only other way to be able to open enroll out of the system, I'd just like you to consider our situation and what's best in the best interest of my daughter Abby to enroll in the Connections Academy. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Next is Brian Sheridan.
My name's Brian Sheridan. I live at 338 North Grove in Walcott. My request is for open enrollment too for my two daughters. I'm here speaking on behalf for myself and my wife. We have 7 children, and 5 of them have gone through the Davenport system and are all adults and are quite successful. Our issue is with our 2 younger girls. They have challenges. One is special needs and one's on a 504, and we've attempted to work within the district, and I'm not saying the district's failed. I'm just saying it's not working for our girls, and we need an opportunity to go outside of the district and open enroll. Hopefully, we're looking for answers, and I feel I've spent a lot of time with my girls in the system trying to find them, and hopefully it's not too late for them, but I'd really appreciate an opportunity take them outside the district. Thank you. Oh, there's also letters been given to you. I wrote a letter and then a letter from their doctor. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next is Megan Long. Megan, are you out? Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm in the corner. Okay, my name is Megan Long. I live at 1943 West 56th Court in Davenport. I am coming up. I'm a parent of 4 children. 1 goes to high school, 1 in middle school, and 2 in elementary school. The proposed change in start times is of concern to me. Most families in our district are dual income, and start time for our work on average is 8 o'clock. By pushing the start time back, this affects getting children to school. I know that some, not all, schools provide before care at the elementary level, but not all of the elementaries. At the junior high level, there is no before or after school care. And this is where my biggest concern is, because this puts a lot of responsibility on a 10, 11-year-old to make sure that they get to school on time at 9:30 or 9 in the morning. Specifically, my son has ADHD, so I have to make sure that he gets his medication in him and make sure that he walks himself to school, because we are within the walking distance of school. He will have to walk through all the types of weather, which, you know, I get it. I did that as a kid too. So I'm concerned about that. This also makes their days longer, and therefore their after-school activities go longer into the evening, which then makes their nights longer to come home and do schoolwork. The other point I'd like to make is our enrollment is decreasing. If new people move into our area and they look at our start times, this may persuade them to not want to come to our district, because if they're working families, that may not work for them. I know there is a budget crisis. It is so difficult to find areas to cut. I encourage you guys to look at possibly administration funding and all the money that's going to our administration versus things that are affecting our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Judy Jackson.
I'm Judy Jackson, and I live at 115 West 16th Street. On December the 7th, my grandson is a student at Sudlow. He's in the 6th grade. He was attacked by another student with a pair of scissors in computer class. We don't know where the scissors came from. I've been downstairs 3 times. My granddaughter is a single parent, and hospital bill is close to $700. She cannot afford it. Her insurance company would not pay it. And we did contact the police. The police said it's a criminal matter. This upset my grandson because he felt when he went back to school the next day, the student was still there. And I don't think they did anything to him for that. And I've been downstairs, and I'd like to know, if you send your kid to school, and if they can't be safe there, where can they be safe at? And who is responsible to pay that bill?
Okay, thank you, Judy. I want to thank, excuse me. You know, we have a process here. Yeah. And the process, we do have open forum. And the process is that we do ask that you fill out an open forum request and give it to the secretary prior to the board meeting. So, do you have an open forum request? I can't just let you come up and just say something. If you will fill out a request, I'll consider that while I'm thinking about, or while I'm thanking everybody else. I was really struck tonight, and probably the whole board was, and the administration, by all of your thoughtfulness and your comments and your questions. And they are really important. And it helps us think about things. And I just wanted to say thank you to our whole community, but especially those that have the fortitude to get up here and tell us what you think. So I wanted to thank Katerina, Tyler, Linda, Kim, Brian, Judy, and Megan for what you presented tonight. And I apologize to everybody. I am going to take an extra bit of time. I don't know what this extra request is, but a process issue. I'll go ahead and take the heat for that. So. Yeah, Mary's back there helping. Come on up. So Mary, can I get that? Thank you. So give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Cosby Gibson. My address is 2118 West 66th Street, Davenport, Iowa. I come to you concerning bullying of my grandson at Wood Junior High. I've went to the assistant principal last year about that, and it seems like nothing has been done.
I've got to let you know that in our opening comments, I just want I want to be careful that you're aware of this. We talk about what open forum is for, which is time for members of the community to give input. And then we ask that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community during open forum, and remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. I just wanted you to be aware of that, because if you have a specific complaint, then we have other avenues rather than in an open forum to present something like that, if you're talking about a specific person. Okay?
Okay, that's understood, but see, I didn't know that.
I
But-
understand.
But I want to bring it to the attention that I thought your schools have a no bullying policy, and if you address that to the principal or assistant principal, it should be at least looked into. See what I'm saying? And see, nothing's been done about that. So I'm bringing it to the attention of the board and whoever else I need to address that to.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure the administration will be looking. If it happened last year, I can't.
It always happened last year. It's happening now.
Okay.
And I want to try to see if I get it stopped.
Okay.
So,
So the administration has heard what you've said.
okay.
Okay? No, seriously. Okay. Thank you very much for coming, Cosby. Okay, we'll move on with the consent agenda. May I have motion?
Mr. President,
Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda as written.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director Gosa.
I just had a quick question, or do I have to wait and pull it out and then ask about it?
You can ask a question about an issue, but if you want to pull it out, you can pull it out and it would be voted on separately.
I just want to know on the architects ones, we only have one architect, and normally when we get stuff, we have more than one. I was just curious why that was. That was all.
I don't know. Superintendent Tate, is there a way you can answer that?
Is it the restroom remodeling?
You had the restroom remodeling and then the urban farm classroom are both in there. I was just curious. Normally we get more than one, so we do the lowest bidder or whatever.
Mr. Maloney,
Architects generally are professional services, and so they are not they're selected through a qualifications-based process and not a bid, so to say. And we tend to use, the board has expressed a preference for architects who have local offices, and so we tend to use those architects that are locally based or have local office, not always locally based, but that have an office in Davenport. That's generally what we do, and we select from different firms based on their qualifications.
Did you have more? Go ahead.
So basically they don't bid on it. You just decide which one you're going to go to and present what you want done, and then they give you the price. I'm just trying to figure out the process.
When the project is over $3 million in estimated construction cost, we have a panel interview architects, but it's still a qualification-based process. For projects under $3 million, we will talk to one or more, depending upon the circumstances, and ask for a proposal from them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll call for the vote. Director DeSalvo?
Yes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Potts? Yes. Director Mayfield?
Yes.
Director Gosa?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of bills?
Mr. President,
Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board approve the administration's recommendation for adoption of the bills from the bill listing periods of March 22nd, 2018 through April 4th, 2018. Resolved, all claims presented to the board having been duly certified as correct by the secretary, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby audited and allowed as just claims and warrants drawn on the Treasury for the several amounts. Further resolved, the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented for the periods of March 22nd, 2018 through April 4th, 2018.
Thank you. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All right, we'll call for the vote. Director DeSalvo?
Yes.
Director Potts? Yes. Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Mayfield?
Yes.
Director Gosa?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Superintendent report.
Thank you. On March 31st, the Marine JROTC unit participated in a drill competition at North High in Des Moines, and they were judged the #1 best overall drill team. The Central Quiz Bowl team won the champion title for the virtual competition at Iowa State University, and the West Bands went to Orlando 15 through 20 March, and competition in what's called the Orlando Fest. The concert band and jazz band won the first in their divisions, and the concert band was named the overall grand champion. I have a letter from the Government Finance Officers Association, which indicates we are pleased to notify you that your comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending 2017 qualifies for the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the government accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by government and its management. So we're pleased to have you at that, and congratulations, Marcia. On Sunday, I went to the Young Artist display at the Figgy. That's where our elementary schools actually pick either 4, 5, 6, or 8 of their best artists, and they actually display in the Figgy. They go in the auditorium, 1/3 of the elementary schools at a time, and get awards, and it was really a great ceremony, great artwork, and to me, I started thinking about our commitment to the arts, and one of the things that the Vision 2020 looks to is to try to preserve those great things that we have. So it was a great afternoon. We have great artists. Last Friday I met with 3 student groups from 4 of our high schools. I meet with the 4th this week, and I want to talk to them about security concerns, and specifically my framework for security that I'm trying to get some support for. We have some very bright students. They were very insightful. They were thankful, first of all, that we're reaching out to them and asking their opinion. And I got some great ideas on things we can do that aren't going to cost us anything, but I think will bolster up our security. So I have one other group to go to. As you know, I reached out to the governor and the leaders in the House and the Senate. Then I reached out to every legislator, both the House and the Senate. Then I reached out to the 165 districts that get less per pupil like we do. And to date, I've only had 2 replies at people who feel as strongly as I do and we do about security in the schools. It's very hard for me to understand how it can just fall on deaf ears. And as Sergeant Irick sent today, that people don't get concerned until after it happens. Well, I want to get concerned before, so I'll let you know I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep going. I have other ideas on what I might do. And that completes my report.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to other items requiring action. May I have a motion regarding approval of the 2017-18 budget amendment?
Mr. President,
Director Beck.
I move that the board amend the 2017-18 certified budget in the following areas for the following amounts: instruction, $128,256. $128,256,870. Total support services, $68,758,671. Non-instructional programs, $10,543,346. And total other expenditures, $30,207,929.
Thank you. Is there a second? Marcia, do you have anything that you want to say on this before we debate it?
The two areas that we had amounts that changed in were the total support areas and total other expenditures. The total support areas was increased by roughly $1.2 million. And what is included in that line item is expenses related to departments outside of the classroom. So not instructional type expenses, but expenses for general administration, business administration, central office, plant and operations, transportation, and non-instructional building expenses. Approximately $300,000 of that was attributed to plant and operations, and that was due to the increased construction projects that we had going on. There was $200,000 attributed to the management fund, where we re-estimated the expenses in there, and we had to increase it by $200,000, and then the remainder fit in one of those other categories. The other category of total other expenditures, that went up by just about $5 million. 3.2 of that was in the SAVE fund, and $2 million was in the PEPL fund, and again, it was due to an increased schedule for completion of construction projects.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion by the board? All right, I'll call for the vote. Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Potts? Yes. Director DeSalvo?
Yes.
Director Mayfield?
Yes.
Director Gosa?
Yes.
Director Hayes?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of the proposed 2018-19 budget?
Mr. President,
Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board accept the administration's recommendation to adopt and certify the budget and tax levy rate for the 2018-19 fiscal year as published and presented. The proposed property tax levy rate per $1,000 taxable valuation. Mary, what amount is this? Is that 15,000?
No, it's
No, it's 15 point.
Okay. Will be, sorry, Mary, $15.45640, and resources and requirements are estimated at $261,661,462.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director Beck.
I did notice that one line in the budget, as far as administration goes, is being increased between 2018 and 2019. It's line 26, general administration. And it looks like all the other administration lines are being reduced in expenditures. So I was just wondering what was the cause for that increase. And I know you explained that those are associated with the school board, the superintendent and associate superintendent's office. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Those different categories that are listed up there are all account coding that the state requires us to code expenditures to. And sometimes when we have a large swing in a line item like this, it's because the state has come back to us and said, rather than coding an expenditure to this category, you need to now change it to this category. And I believe that's what the majority of what is showing up in the general administration is, that we just weren't coding it correctly in previous years. And through filing our annual report, we get comments back that say you need to change the coding on this. Because if you look at the overall expenditures this year compared to last year, we are down over $12 million. And so it's not that our budget has increased. This is strictly a matter of a coding correction.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion? I've got a couple of questions. How much do we have in reserves right now?
It looks like we have in reserves right now $17 million.
And how much can we have legally?
In your reserve fund, there is not a limit as to how much you can have. And let me clarify, if you're talking reserve fund, meaning fund balance, then there is no maximum amount that a school district can have.
But isn't there a state law regarding the percent? Either that you can have, there's something about that. What is the law?
That is when you're talking cash reserve levy.
Mhm.
And when you're talking the cash reserve levy, they do have a formula that you can't exceed. It's your expenditures minus the fund balance you already have on hand times a percentage, and you can't exceed that. And if we were to submit a budget that did exceed that, they would automatically reduce the amount of our cash reserve levy that we could levy. But when you're talking fund balance, there's no maximum on that.
Is all of that affected by the change in the budget itself? I'm trying to figure out whether, because you're proposing a lower levy rate,
Correct.
right? And so I'm trying to think, what does that do to the fund balances? And is it relative to this year's budget or next year's?
Well, the change in the tax levy affects next year's budget. But if you look at the total, our total fund balance is going to go up by $9 million next year. And that is a direct result of the reductions that we're going to be putting in place. So we're not being impacted by the amount of the change in the tax levy.
Is there any negative impact to what what you're proposing and we're getting ready to vote on?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, thank you. Director Beck.
I do have one question. What happens if we don't pass the transportation schedule changes and we're supposed to save $300,000 in there? That number would just go up then?
If any of the budget reductions that we have planned do not take place, it's either going to impact the budget or we're going to have to find something to take its place.
Any additional discussion? Director DeSalvo.
And what rate are we at right now?
15. I was thinking.
For the tax levy,
Yes.
right now we are at 15.83985, and we're proposing go to 15.45640. So it's not quite a 40-cent difference.
Can you explain to most of us in this room, it seems, we're scrambling for money, we're looking for money, but now we're proposing to lower this. Can you put that in layman's terms of why we
Sure.
would approve going down instead of adding? I think you were going there.
The cash reserve levy is what's being impacted by the change in the levy rate. The cash reserve levy does not bring spending authority with it. And so when we're looking at the budget and we're looking at making reductions, it's not because we don't have the money, it's because we don't have the spending authority. So by changing that cash reserve levy, we could have increased it by $4 million. It wouldn't have done a thing for our spending authority. So that's why by lowering it, we're not impacting our spending authority at all. It's in fact, well, it's not impacting the bottom line either. But the main thing is that cash reserve line has no spending authority with it.
Did you have more? Anybody else?
So,
Director Mayfield.
so the benefit, the benefit is to the taxpayer, basically,
Yes.
because it does not benefit the school system as far as increased revenue or decrease.
Correct. It's definitely a benefit to the taxpayer.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, Director Beck.
How long will that benefit then last until we vote again?
It depends on what is presented for the 1920 school year. It will be in effect for a year.
Anybody else? Student board members, you want to weigh in on this one? Okay. You know, my question now probably is something that is hard to answer. But I was thinking if the superintendent is successful in some of his efforts to get the rest of the state to recognize the importance of security, and to somehow make a change, if they were to do that, would that be one of those automatic things that the department or somebody could do, or how would something like that look? I'm just wondering is there anything we can do at this point to protect what he's trying to do?
Should we get your name on camera?
I'm not sure how to answer that.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure.
don't
think
know
the only
either.
way is to get spending authority.
Well, and that's
Use
where
our
I'm going.
reserve, yep.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what we need.
If we could get spending authority and spend those reserves, then it looks like we could do it. But after we make this decision tonight, we don't have another decision until next year.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, anything else? All right, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. Director DeSalvo. Oh, and let me express one last time what this vote is on. So the vote is we're voting on the proposed property tax levy rate per $1,000 of taxable valuation will be $15.45640, and the resources and requirements are estimated at $261,661,462. So what we're voting on is that tax levy rate. I just want to make sure that's clear. Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Potts.
Yes.
Director Mayfield.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
No.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of budget guarantee?
Mr. President,
Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board accept the administration's recommendation for the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Directors of the Davenport Community School District will levy property tax for fiscal year 2018-19 for the regular program budget adjustment as allowed under Section 257.14 Code of Iowa.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director DeSalvo.
Marcia, can you explain also what budget guarantee means to us?
Sure. The state puts in their formula a guarantee that if the dollars that we generate on our per pupil times our enrollment does not give us at least 1% more than what we got last year, they will guarantee us that 1% level. And since we had a decline in enrollment last year, and we take that times our per pupil, we were well below that 1%. So by approving this, we are guaranteed a 1% increase from last year's funding.
And Marcia, can you explain that this comes from taxpayers?
Right, the amount of the guarantee is all property tax generated. The state aid does not play a part in that. And just so you know, in the resolution you read that we would levy a tax. That is included in the total tax amount that you approved with the budget in the previous motion.
No, I just want to encourage people so strongly out there. These are complex numbers. They're very complicated. But bottom line, what our state legislators are doing to us by not giving us enough funding to support our teachers, to keep us from having to close the school, all they're getting away with is they're giving us less money, and then we're turning back around and getting it from taxpayers. So please, 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 this is an election year. This is a very important election year. Study, research, think about the people that you're voting for. Understand what they represent. It's very, very important, because this is all of us paying for this now because they didn't give us the per pupil funding that we deserved. And again, it's coming out of your pockets. So I can't say it enough. If you aren't registered to vote, register to vote. I'm on a mission. We are going to make this happen. So sorry, I just had to rant. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hey, Madison. You know, you've been pretty vocal about this, and we have a good audience here. Can you even give a little bit of additional thought on what Director DeSalvo just said, especially with per pupil spending?
The situation is always incredibly frustrating every time I think about it, especially when we consider what happened this legislative session, where we got $5 additional, but there's no guarantee for the future that they will continue to equalize funding in any form, that our legislature will continue to equalize funding in any form for us. When I think about inequality in funding, I think about inequality in opportunity and the lack of opportunities we're able to provide to our students, even in a district as wonderful as ours, as well adapted as ours, as just wonderful as ours. We have so many teachers and students and members of our district that sacrifice to give the best opportunities to our students, but I feel like if we were to have equalized funding, then we could do an even greater job of providing those opportunities for our students, for every student, and having to discuss budget practices in what ifs is also very frustrating and scary. Like, what if the legislature decides to do their job and give us this funding? What if the legislature decides to do their job and listen to what we need? That is frightening to me, especially when we contrast it with having to close a school, having to change bus times, these things that might hurt us or will hurt us. So this entire conversation is frightening, and there's no right answer, and I thank all of you for taking on that task, but it's really your decision. You have to figure out what the best thing to do in this situation is. And we elected you, so we trust you to make that decision.
No pressure. No pressure.
Thank you, Madison. We really appreciate that. Any other discussion? Let me see here. Where am I?
Yes.
Director Mayfield.
You know, Madison, I appreciate what you're saying there. I think it has put us as a community and as a board in a tough position when we're not getting equal funding. But let's say we got equal funding tomorrow. Is that going to solve our problem? We went from 18,000 students to under 15,000 students, and we're not talking about it. I realize how important equal funding is, but unless we stop losing students, unless we somewhere plug the drain, we're still going to be in the same situation with equal funding. So it is not that equal funding is not important, it is. We deserve, our students deserve, our teachers deserve, we as a community deserve equal funding. But our problem is bigger than equal funding. And if we lose focus by not talking about those other issues and how they are affecting overall in the long run our enrollment, our not being able to fill the buildings that we have, that is direct relationship to students that we have lost over the last 5 to 10 years. We need to address that. I'd like to hear us talking as much about losing students as we talk about equal funding, because I think they're both essential to solving the problem that we have here financially. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional discussion?
President Johansson, may I
Oh.
respond to Director Mayfield?
Sure.
Director Mayfield, when you discuss declining enrollment, I absolutely agree that it is a major problem in our district. But I think we should also consider the fact that we have declining enrollment because we do not have equalized funding. And because we don't have equalized funding, we're not able to offer the opportunities, the programs that other school districts with higher funding are, those programs that draw the students that are leaving our district for others. So to have equalized funding would not automatically solve the problem of declining enrollment or any of the other problems we face. But it would go a long way to being able to support the programs that draw in students, that draw in families, and that create and support our vibrant community.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any additional discussion on the approval of the budget guarantee? All right, call for the vote. Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Potts. Yes. Director Mayfield. Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move to the open enrollment denial appeals. And I'll ask for a motion on this. Director Potts.
Move that the board uphold the superintendent's decision to deny open enrollment between districts based on the district's diversity plan for the following students who have appealed.
Yeah, I don't think in this case that it would be appropriate to read them. Okay? Is there a second?
Second.
Before we get started, the superintendent has asked that Dawn give an overview of this before we get into discussion.
The overview is at the very bottom of all the things that we've given you. It's 218-19 summary.
So this is a summary of the students who have applied for open enrollment that went through the lottery process. And because of our diversity plan, we use reduced fees, reduced lunch, free and reduced as our characteristic that we separate our diversity. So we look at students who have a reduced fee or free fees, lunch, and we also have those that have paid. And so that's why you'll see Category A and Category B. And with our diversity plan, we allow the number of students who want to come into the district, we allow that same number to go out. But we have to maintain that ratio of Category A to Category B students. So you can see this year in the open enrollment applications, we had 12 students who wanted to open enroll into the district. One was a Category A and 11 were a Category B. So that means we can let 12 students out. We have to look at that as one from a Category A and 11 from a Category B. And the students that wanted to leave the district, we had 100 applicants that wanted to leave the district. 12 were Category A and 88 were Category B. And so we could approve one Category A, approve 11 Category B. And as you can see, as we go through, we also have siblings. And it's been the district's practice to not separate families. So if we had a student who was already open enrolled out and they had a sibling that applied, we would approve those first. And you can see we had 9 siblings of Category B. So that left us with 3 that would be in the lottery. And we had 1 Category A for the lottery and 2 for Category B.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Are there any questions for Dawn on this summary before we get into discussion? And Madison.
What is category A versus category B? Is there a certain criteria that students have to fit to fall into those
Category
categories?
A are students who are free or reduced fees or lunch. Category B are students who have paid fees or lunch.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Dawn? Superintendent Tate, do you have anything to say before we get into discussion?
No.
All right. We have a motion on the table. Is there any discussion regarding this motion? Superintendent Tate.
I'll channel ex-director Kluhl. It's the hardest time of the year. We have a diversity plan because we need it in order to stay solvent. Without it, we would have probably $700,000 a year less. We'd have to cut that much more. He used to say, and I would agree with him, I wish we could let everybody go wherever they want. But because we are allowed to have a diversity plan, we do have a diversity plan. The board has written the plan, approved it, and sent it to the Department of Education, who's approved it. We do, in fact, have to follow it. In every case, you've seen, and again, we can't talk about individuals here, but you can see that I have studied, I've looked at the medical records that we have. We've had them reviewed by medical professionals. And the bullying issues, I have looked at the reports of the bullying and so forth. And I have determined in these cases that we can satisfy the needs of these students in our district. So that's why I'm recommending that you not make any exceptions to our diversity plan and to the lottery that was conducted.
Anything else? Yeah, I want to say, this it affects me in my guts to look at this and think about it, and I appreciate everything that all of our parents and students are going through, and I also appreciate the hard job that our superintendent does, because this must be gut-wrenching for him when he makes these decisions. And I appreciate the superintendent, of course, for a lot of reasons, but this one is tough, and I just want to say thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Director Potts. Yes. Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
I'm going to abstain.
Director Beck.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Mayfield. And my vote is yes. Motion passes. May I have a motion regarding approval of contract for retro commissioning at Central?
Mr. President,
Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the contract with Baker Group for the retro commissioning at Central High School in the amount of $75,000.
Thank you. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Director Gosa.
My question is, didn't we vote on this a couple weeks ago and it got voted down, and now we're doing it again?
Yes, that's correct.
So anytime we vote something down, we can just bring it back up, and or
it's
is this because this is something the administration recommended and we didn't go
No.
along with the recommendation?
no. In fact, Mr. Maloney, if you want to talk on that a little bit, but there are rules in Robert's rules that govern how we can do this, And there was a request made from a board member that this be put back on the agenda.
So that's all we have to do if we want to bring something back up, make a request?
There,
I'm just asking.
I'll explain Robert's rules a little bit later, but not in the meeting. But it was appropriate.
Okay.
Mr. Maloney, do you want to talk a little bit about this? And maybe what happened at the last meeting, how we got here?
Well, I have provided some additional information. The question that was asked at the last meeting was why Clear Result is an engineering firm, would do an assessment, and then we would hire a different engineering firm to do the actual work. And I've attempted in the memo provided to explain that Clear Result is the contractor hired by Mid-American to administer an energy efficiency program. Clear Result does an initial assessment of buildings, and they have done all of the buildings in our district. Actually, as part of our energy efficiency initiative started last year. Once Clear Result does the assessment, they say, well, here we found 5 things or 10 things or 15 things called energy efficiency measures that the district could undertake that would save money. And in this case and several others, one of the things they recommended was what's called retro-commissioning of a building. The retro-commissioning of West was accomplished last year, and in addition to the other energy efficiency measures undertaken at West as a result of the retro-commissioning effort, we only last couple of days got an inquiry from the building department at Mid-American. They do this frequently. They noticed that there was a big change at West, and that change was year to year, March and April, this year over last year, the energy consumption at West as a result of the retro-commissioning and retrofits that were done there has declined by 20% each month. And that, on an annualized basis, will represent about $32,000 of energy savings. That is a result of the implementation of the energy efficiency measures at West. Clear Results then validates the work that's done and calculates what the incentive that will be paid back to the district is. And you can see the incentive for the retro-commissioning will be $33,400, a little over $33,000. When you do the ROI calculations, that will be a 4.7 year payback for that work at Central. We've already had the demonstration of a 20% energy savings at West. The retro-commissioning of North was also recommended. It is underway. A different engineering firm is doing the work there. But the reason that Clear Result doesn't do all 3 steps is because they would be then validating and calculating the award based on their own work. So they are Mid-American's contractor who operates the program on behalf of Mid-American and calculates the incentives awarded, so they don't do the step of doing the actual hands-on work. So that was the question asked was why, at the last meeting, why Clear Result doesn't do all 3.
Director Gosa, did you have more questions on that?
Yeah. So what is Baker Group going to be doing? Are they the ones that are actually doing all the work? Or they're just going to tell us what we need to do? And
a combination of both. There are some things they may discover that are repair or maintenance items for which we would hire a mechanical contractor or a plumber or something of that effect. In the materials provided, there's a pretty detailed list of the actual activities that Baker Group will undertake. And the result of this is they do some physical things that they discover during the retro-commissioning, but they also will make some additional energy efficiency measure EEM recommendations. And they will discover, because it is such an intensive evaluation of all of the equipment in the building, every pump, every fan, every air handler, every condenser, et cetera, that they'll discover some maintenance and repair items that were previously unknown that can then be corrected, that also add to both occupant comfort and energy efficiency.
I don't know how to say this the right way. I don't want to be Captain Obvious here, but I mean, if you're going to put LED lights in, that's going to save money. If you're going to put energy efficient toilets in, that's going to save money. Do we really need to pay someone to tell us to do that stuff? I mean, I'm looking at budget cuts and everything else, and sometimes I feel we waste money on stuff like this that, I mean, and we have an energy efficient person on staff. That should be, I don't know how to say that the right way, and I know I'm not, but I mean, obviously if you update your equipment, you update stuff, you're going to save energy. I mean, I went through my house. I didn't call someone to say, hey, if I put LED bulbs in, is that going to save me money? If I do this, if I do that? I mean, I sometimes, I'm still going to be a no on this, so I'll just throw that out there now. I just don't understand sometimes why we do some of this stuff. I guess that's where I'm at with it.
Is there any additional discussion? I've been through this, especially on the West retro commissioning. I think you did last year, didn't you?
That's correct.
And the recommendations were made by Clear Results.
Yes.
On behalf of Mid-American.
Yes.
And that was a significant savings the way I remember the document. Was Baker Group involved in that?
No.
What happened on that one?
Train was the group that did the retro commissioning work at West.
Okay.
Baker Group is recommended. Now, there's a list of what are called trade ally partners that Mid-American establishes, and you select the commissioning agent from the list of trade ally partners. They have to be qualified by Mid-American to do the work and certified and so forth. And not every engineering firm in the city chooses to be a trade ally partner. Those that do have been vetted and have the qualifications necessary to perform both the technical work according to engineering standards, but they also have the knowledge of Mid-American's program in order to do the work in accordance with the protocols, with the rules of the program.
And when I look at this, I mean, a couple things. One is that we get a benefit through decreased energy consumption.
Yes.
And it appears that there's kind of a potential conflict of interest if Clear Results were to do the work. I think you were alluding to that, but you didn't say it. And so we have somebody else do the work, like Baker or Train or whoever you select. And I understand Director Gost's concerns, because I thought that a year ago when we looked at West. And I've come to acknowledge that this is just the way it is, and that Mid-American is a valued partner to the district, and that they are overseeing this program with you, and that the program as a whole is saving money, and that this is the right thing to do.
That's our recommendation when we started the program, and
Right.
we meet monthly with Clear Result representative, Mid-American representative. We look at everything that's underway, everything that has been done. We have received some tens of thousands of dollars in rebates and incentives through this program, and we have a demonstrable record of reducing energy consumption and saving general fund energy dollars.
Right. I'll leave it at that. Any other discussion? Director DeSalvo.
I just wanted to clarify too. So this is going to cost us $75,000, but there's a rebate for the retro commissioning of you listed $33,468. So we're getting nearly half of that back in a rebate.
Yes, and this is a not to exceed total amount, so it will actually be a percentage of the actual expenditures at the end of the work.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? And then I wanted to be clear, so that we're getting that money kind of up front, and then we get continued energy savings every year
Yes.
after that. Okay. If there's no more discussion, we'll call for the vote. Director DeSalvo.
Do I need to abstain? Do I need to abstain?
Excuse me?
Do I
What's
need
the
to
question?
Do I need to abstain?
No, because this has nothing to do with Mid-American.
Okay.
This is a contract for Baker or Baker Group, whatever.
Then my vote is yes.
All right, thank you. Director Potts.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Mayfield.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
No.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of the Creative Arts Academy lease?
Mr. President,
Director Beck.
I recommend that the board approve the lease of the Eastern Iowa Community College space at 306 West River Drive at a cost of $250,000 annually for the Creative Arts Academy.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Superintendent Tate.
If I might, 6 years ago, we started on a journey to try to identify District of Distinction models for the district, and 3 came out of a year-long meeting. One was the dual graduation at North High. Another was to put a career pathway at West High School, and the other was to have a creative arts or an arts academy downtown. And the idea was to have it located downtown at its own building. It took an entire year for that concept to be fleshed out before we really started the Creative Arts Academy, and it's now in its 4th year where we have students 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that are downtown in the library, and we have 9th grade students at Central High School, as well as what we call Dream students, 11th and 12th graders. We've been squatting in the library for 4 years now, and they've been very good to us, and we run over the Figgy, we run over the RME, we run over to the Call building, and our students are all over town. Now we have an opportunity to have our own place. The opportunity is a lease to buy. As the memo indicates to you, we're already paying rent, so the rent's going to be more than what we're now paying downtown for rent. It will come out of the Pebble and Save funds as far as the purchase. If we get to the 5-year point and we're still operating and we are happy with the Creative Arts Academy, and I have every faith that we will be, then we can buy it. And we can buy it for a really, really good price because half of what we're paying for rent goes into the purchase. We've also indicated it is going to cost more for operations. That will come from the PIPL. It will cost some to get our technology established. But also want to point out that our dream was we would bring in people from other districts and from other schools, and in fact, we've done that. This year we brought in about $50,000 from Illinois as well as other districts. Also, there are 9 students this year who have come to us from homeschooling and parochial or private schools, and to me, that's money we would otherwise have not had, and we have 3 more students coming in. So they try to pay their own way. Plus, since the very beginning, we had to go out and find the funds to make this happen. We couldn't use purely school district funds. So we raised millions and millions of dollars, and every year our target is to raise $400,000 to help with the operations. And this year we're going to finalize that. We're about $30,000 short. If you have your checkbook with you tonight, we'll take anything you want to give. But I'm very excited about this possibility that now we'll be down in our own place. And if you've ever been in the upstairs of that, it is all windows looking out towards the Mississippi. It's a great place to be. So I hope you'll approve this. We're extremely happy. We have with us tonight people from the Creative Arts Academy. Raise your hand so we can see who you are. Thanks for being here tonight. And if you have any questions about the operation, they can certainly answer that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Director Gosa.
So I actually toured the Creative Arts Academy, and let me tell you, you get a lot of steps in down there because we went from building to building to building. I mean, I think this is a great thing. If they're all in one spot, I mean, they're kind of set up in the back corner already there. I think it'll be a lot more effective because now you don't have kids walking and everything else. My only question is, because this is set up for Eastern Iowa Community College, is there a lot of renovation that has to be done?
Very little renovation will be done in order to move in. Just we'll create the secure entry to our district standard, and we'll install the computer network connection and phones. But it's already classrooms and administrative offices. It operated as the community college and is suitable for to move in with very, very little renovation.
And one of the rooms contains our piano studio, where we can put numerous students in there one time. And another is our dance studio. In fact, the Central is going to use our dance studio because they don't have enough room. So my hope is that it'll be used as an asset for other parts of the district also.
So you said the secure entrance. Where would that be? Is it right when you get up the stairs you would set something up, or when you even enter, is that just...
There would be the card swipes at the bottom of the stairs.
Okay.
And the camera, so you could see who's there, inquire, and buzz them up, just
Okay.
similar to the operation of the secure entries underway at other buildings.
Okay. I'll vote for this. I think it's a great idea. I know I've been negative Nancy all night, but this is a pretty good thing. And like I said, I did tour it. They got a great thing going. I think it'll be a lot better for them. I mean, I know you guys like getting your steps in, but that's all I'm going to say on that.
Any other discussion? Director Potts.
I just want to say I'm looking at the layout here of how it's going to be designed and filled out, and I think it's going to be a great step up for everybody in the academy. I think the kids that have been in that academy have just they're a wonderful bunch of kids. I mean, they're just a talented, friendly, enthusiastic bunch of kids, and because they did their academics over at Sudlow. But looking at the layout of this, you got a black box theater going in. Very good.
Director Beck.
I just wanted to second, I guess third, what everybody else said. Having toured the Creative Arts Academy already, it is kind of cramped in there, and this is, I think, a big step up. And if we're trying to increase enrollment and provide programs and services that draw in students from elsewhere, this is one of the best ways I think we could do it. So I think it's a great opportunity.
Any other discussion? Director Gosa.
This might be a Dr. Tate question. So moving to this bigger space, is it more space than we have now, so you'd be able to allow more students? Is that going to be a benefit too?
We probably could, but our problem is the cost of teachers.
Right.
If we bring in more money and more operating money, then we'd love to expand it. But right now, we're right at the edge of what we can afford. And again, we need the $400,000 per year to supplement, to bring it
Ralph
in.
said he would open up his checkbook.
Okay, that'll all help.
Any other discussion? Yeah, I think this is wonderful, and it's been so much hard work by so many people. The superintendent in helping us with raising money. And I was curious, Mr. Franken is in the back. I was wondering if you'd mind coming up and just telling us if you support this recommendation.
This is very obvious. I certainly do. But I do so much because of the staff we've had that we put together for 4 years. I think this is the biggest morale boost to our staff and to our students. We are sort of crimped in our facility. I think one of the biggest assets besides the extra space in this facility, they will be leaving every piece of furniture, tables, chairs, projectors, everything for us. And so we'll, like Mike said, we pretty much just walk in, and we've already had to vacate the call building on the 9th floor. We've taken the equipment out of there and are moving that and storing it till this lease takes place. But thank you very much for your support in this. It means a lot to our kids and to our staff. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your comments, Joel. Director Beck.
One other thing, speaking of checkbooks, I believe you guys set the date for the next fundraiser, October 19th. Did I remember it correctly from this afternoon? Oh, okay. Never mind.
All right.
I take that back.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Potts. Yes. Director Mayfield.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approving a timeline for closing a school? Director Potts. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Superintendent Tate, do you want to lead on this, or?
I'll be glad to. This follows a policy very carefully. Everything on here is required by policy except the 3 public forums, which we're going to be doing in May and June. You don't have to do those, but to be fair to you, to be fair to the public, we want to get out as far in advance with talking about Vision 2020, and part of that is recommendation to close a school or schools. So beyond that, everything else follows your policy. The most important aspects of this is when you get to September 10th, when you adopt a resolution stating your intention to close a school. And that's your stake in the ground saying that we are looking at closing this school, and everything up to that point has led us to believe that this is the right decision. But even giving that, then you have public hearings, you have exchange of information, you have discussions by the board, and you have 2 more votes you have to take to solidify the fact you are closing a school. So we're expanding by about 5 months the normal time frame required by your policy. I will be, because the board has asked me to, I'm going to be providing the worksheets that my administrators and I have used to make the consideration for school closing. So it will have a number of options on it, and it will have all the information required by your policy. There's 7 different areas that we need to address, and each of those has several, so it's probably about 30 different things we have to address. There'll be a lot of data, a lot of comments, a lot of information for those options, and then I imagine you'll be wanting to discuss those throughout the late spring and the summer, so that you have plenty of options to ask us questions, to ask for any additional information, to analyze it, and to put your own judgments about what's important there. So this is a long time frame drawn out, and a lot of questions have been asked about, well, how will the K through 6 look? And so we owe you those sort of answers as we begin to present the options to you. So that's all I'd have to say, and open to questions.
Thank you. Any discussion on this item? Director Beck.
Sorry. I just want to emphasize for the public that by voting, I know, voting on this timeline, we are not voting to close a school definitely. We're voting on a timeline for making decisions. So no schools are being closed as of this vote.
Thank you for the clarification. Anybody else? I just wanted to comment, we did this a few years ago, and this policy seems a little onerous. But it's in fact derived from a law that used to be a state law that required all these processes as part of your policy if you were going to go through this. And this board then adopted all of that as policy when the law was eventually changed. So that's why it's so particular with dates and everything. Just wanted to give a little history on it. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll call for Director Mayfield.
My only disagreement with the timeline is when we have something as important as a gathering of parents in June, we miss a large part of the parents not being able to come because of scheduled vacations and things of that sort. So I would have liked this timeline better if there had been at least one in September, and I know that's getting close to the time when the decisions would be made. But I think it's so important to do this when we're in school rather than out of school, because communities are more connected to the schools when school is in session versus during the summer when everybody is, in a sense, trying to get out of town. So I wanted to mention that.
Okay. Superintendent Tate.
I'd like to say that I'd be glad to do that. We could have May, June, and September. I think June is not too bad a time for some people, but it might be, so I'm certainly willing to do that. We could have one in each of those months.
With that being the case, I'm just wondering whether we should acknowledge that as an amendment to the motion, because this says May and June. Do you want to add the September? If somebody would want to make that amendment, excuse me. These are prescriptive. The way that this is set up is a timeline for closing a school based on Board Policy 501.05. And the May and June 2018 are not in the policy. That's something that the administration has put in addition to offer those opportunities. So right now it just says May and June. We could probably have more, but if we're going to go ahead and vote on it, it would be great to acknowledge what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. So would anybody like to amend the motion to add that there would be a September public forum that would be added to that first line item?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I move that we amend the original motion to reflect Director Mayfield's suggestion and add a forum in September.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this? I'm going to call the vote for the amendment, and all the amendment is saying is that we'll add a September forum to the first line item. Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Potts. Yes. Director Mayfield.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. So now the motion on the table is to approve the timeline for closing a school, and it includes the timeline that you see before you, with the modification being that that first line will read May, June, and September of 2018. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Director Potts.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Mayfield.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion? Let me see where we are in our... Yeah, I know. I was just looking to see whether we needed to take a recess, but we have no discussion items. How's the board feeling? You okay? Okay, we'll keep going then. May I have a motion regarding approval of the bid for the West High School corridor renovation?
Mr. President,
Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the award of bid of the West High School Corridor 2018 project, including alternate 1 and 2 to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder, Sheets General Construction, in the amount of $616,200.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, call for the vote. Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Mayfield.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
No.
Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Potts. And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. May I have a motion regarding approval of policies? Director Beck.
I move that the board approve the following policies: 301.01 budgeting, 201.01 superintendent, 303.01 purchasing policy, 306.05 public examination of school district public records, 305.02 insurance program, 305.03 personal property located in facilities owned by the DCSD, 305.04 health benefit plan reserve, 305.20 outsourcing services, 305.21 recycling, 305.23 non-competition with private enterprise, 305.24 prevention of false claims, fraud, and abuse in government-funded health programs, and 306.04 bonds for officers and employees.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Potts. Yes. Director Mayfield.
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries. Thank you. There is no discussion item on the agenda. Are there any administrative reports?
There are none.
We do have some board requests. First from Director Potts, dated 4/9/18, which is today. An agenda item, and the preference is to have it at a committee of the whole. I'd like a detailed picture of what the instructional day will consist of or look like for sixth graders if we decide to send them back to the elementary schools. I would like to see this as an item at a committee of the whole meeting. Why are you requesting this information or agenda item? I think we as a board need to know what the instructional implications may be if we shift the sixth grade from the intermediate schools to the elementary. I believe parents also need to know what the change may entail. Is there a second?
Second.
The next question is, when would you like this information or agenda item? It was left blank. Director Potts, do you have any particular thought on when you want these?
No, it's going to take some time on this.
Okay. Okay. Yep, I'm putting when possible. Okay, thank you. Next is from Director Gosa. The date of the request is today's date. Information request. I would like the official enrollment numbers of students for each year for the last 10 years, as well as the official numbers of all Davenport Community School District employees each year for the last 10 years. It would be great if the numbers could be broken down by building. Why are you requesting this information? This information is important for the board to know and should be readily available with the upcoming budget discussions. Is there a second?
Second?
When would you like this information? Immediately. Another information request from Director Gosa, today's date 4/9/18. I'm requesting a complete detailed list of all positions within the district, along with the roles and responsibilities of each position. If this could be broken down by buildings, that would be great. Why are you requesting this information? The information is important for the board to know with the upcoming discussions of budget reduction. Is there a second?
Second.
When would you like this information? Immediately. That's the end of our board requests. So, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. This meeting is adjourned.